Eu também estou com sono. Então não tem problema, mas a gente pode melhorar. Não sou animador de palco, não fiz esse curso ainda, talvez eu faça um dia, mas sejam muito bem-vindos. Bom dia a todos vocês. Que bom que a gente está aqui realizando o que até ontem era um sonho, começa a se tornar uma realidade. Estamos tendo aqui um público que a gente quis ter, que precisava ter, e para quem a gente precisa dizer algumas coisas importantes. Quero agradecer a presença de todas as senhoras e senhores, desejar uma ótima estada aqui na feira, que seja muito proveitosa, que seja de aprendizado, de troca de experiências, mas principalmente de aperfeiçoamento das relações que envolvem o mercado independente de reposição. Este evento está sendo possível porque a gente teve a confiança e o apoio de patrocinadores importantes, que eu faço questão de novamente... Melhorou? Citar, embora já tenham sido todos projetados naturalmente. Nossos patrocinadores Diamante, Automix e Cofap, muito obrigado. Nossos patrocinadores Esmeralda, KS, Goldenschmidt, Topázio, Centauro, Frasle, Mali, Scheffler e Zef, muitíssimo obrigado. E Safira, Sabó, Tacal, Tóquio Marine Seguradora, muitíssimo obrigado a vocês. Muita gente tem perguntado para mim e os meus pares presidentes das entidades que envolvem aí o mercado independente de reposição, o que é a aliança. A aliança surgiu há pouco mais de 2 anos atrás, nós assinamos um protocolo, uma carta, que acabou sendo chamado de a Carta de Fortaleza, porque nós estávamos num evento como este em Fortaleza, Top. Eu sempre confundo com Autopar, aí eu brigo com o Zé Carlos, que está aqui também, ou com o Ranieri. Então, conseguimos acertar. Há pouco mais de 2 anos atrás, nós descobrimos, por uma pessoa que está aqui conosco, que eu vou anunciar em seguida, que nós éramos o 4º maior mercado de reposição do mundo. E olha que interessante, nós não sabíamos. Nós sabíamos que tínhamos 80% de share do mercado, de um mercado que envolve 50 milhões de veículos, e que desses 50 milhões de veículos, quando a gente olhava para a produção do agro brasileiro, que representa aí 30% do PIB brasileiro, nós sabíamos que 63% da manutenção deste modal rodoviário era feito por nós. Quando a gente olhava para o mercado de transporte de coletivo, de passageiros, né, que representa quase 70%, este modal representa quase 70% do deslocamento coletivo dos nossos brasileiros, 80% da manutenção destes veículos é feita pelo mercado independente de reposição. Poderia citar uma série de outros detalhes. E nós não tínhamos a representatividade e a importância que entendemos que é justo, necessário que tenhamos. Por exemplo, ontem tivemos a presença do senhor vice-presidente da República, presidente ontem em exercício, falando sobre o mercado automotivo, até que ele fez a liçãozinha de casa, veio com alguns dados interessantes, mas eles continuam não sabendo exatamente quem somos nós. Eles não sabem o que a Aliança vem buscando, o que é Sindirepo, o que é Conarin, o que é Andap Sicap, o que é a própria Bipessas, conhece um pouco mais. Então, nós vimos com clareza a necessidade de transformar este mercado naquilo que ele tem por dimensão. Naquilo que ele tem por dimensão e importância na vida política, econômica e social, e principalmente pensando em mobilidade no Brasil. Nos associamos no sentido não de ter uma entidade, não de ter uma pessoa jurídica, no verdadeiro objetivo de trabalhar o coletivo do mercado independente de reposição. Que nos façamos representar com a importância que temos, que nos vejam com as necessidades que nós temos de desenvolver tecnologia, de desenvolver soluções, de desenvolver mão de obra, porque o Brasil não está à margem da produção de tecnologia no mercado independente de reposição. O Brasil é desenvolvedor de soluções. As fábricas brasileiras produzem solução. A distribuição brasileira distribui solução do ponto de vista da inteligência comercial, da inteligência de logística. O que acabamos de mostrar em setembro do ano passado em Frankfurt, por exemplo. Este 4º mercado de reposição não é apenas quantitativo. ele é um grande provedor de soluções, mas algumas coisas faltavam. Tem uma coisa que o mundo começou, na verdade, o mundo começou via Massachusetts, né, via o mercado norte-americano, está se espalhando, a gente já pertence a um grupo, eu já vou falar imediatamente a seguir, quando estiver aqui encerrando, que busca o direito à reparação, e nós vamos ter as exposições aqui específicas sobre isso. Está aqui a doutora Raquel, que é uma grande especialista que está coordenando esse trabalho para a gente. Mas voltando à aliança, eu queria que cada um de vocês, dos diversos níveis que compõem a nossa cadeia produtiva do mercado independente de reposição, tivesse a clareza que tem muita gente trabalhando intensamente e que somos todos voluntários. Quero lembrar a vocês, somos 100% voluntários nisso. Aliás, eu já falei que eu vou entrar com o meu pedido de aposentadoria na ANDAP. Agora, em maio, serão 31 anos de ANDAP. Está vendo, Armandinho? Você que começou comigo lá. 31 anos de ANDAP sem receber um centavo. Então, tenho direito à aposentadoria. Vamos ver se o governo me paga alguma coisa. Mas vocês terem a certeza que a gente vem trabalhando muito para que este mercado tenha o significado devido. Que a hora que nós tivermos que sentar com o Ministério da Indústria e do Comércio, com o Ministério da Fazenda, com o Ministério da Justiça, nós não sejamos vistos à margem do processo político, econômico, social e produtivo brasileiro. Que a gente tenha a exata dimensão e clareza de um trabalho excepcional que nos levou a ser reconhecido durante a pandemia como essenciais para a vida econômica, social e principalmente da mobilidade brasileira. Então, muito obrigado a todos vocês por estarem aqui. Eu tenho a honra de anunciar. Quero lembrar a todos que nós teremos apresentações em inglês, então, se alguém não pegou o tradutor simultâneo, pode fazê-lo ainda. Mas eu fico muito feliz em trazer aqueles que começaram este movimento do direito à reparação, que é eu, dono do meu bem, levar o meu veículo onde eu quiser, não onde a montadora disser que eu devo levar. Este é um movimento forte, sério, estruturado, com uma estratégia claramente definida, que vocês vão ter um pouco mais de detalhes hoje, mas que está sendo costurado já há muito tempo, a duras penas, extremamente difícil, mas que já a gente vai ter notícia do nosso glorioso Congresso Nacional atuando sobre isso. Eu tenho o imenso prazer de chamar e convidar para estar conosco aqui. I have a pleasure to announce Mr. Bill from Outcare, United States. Thank you, Mr. Bill, and welcome here in Brazil. Oh, gente, me pediram para dar um recadinho aqui. Olha, perdão, Bill, fique à vontade. Give me just a second, please, Bill. Me pediram e eu esqueci aqui. Nós temos uma petição pública que estamos fazendo com o pedido de direito à reparação, e esse QR Code aqui, se alguém ficar à vontade e quiser assinar essa petição que irá para o Congresso Nacional, e quiser, inclusive, recomendo, pedimos, sugerimos que o façam, através desse QR Code, nós estaremos assinando uma petição que irá para o Congresso Nacional, aí com o nosso pleito de um projeto de lei que viabilize o right to repair aqui no Brasil. Welcome, Bill. Thank you so much.
Bom dia. Obrigado. Bom dia. Buenos dias. Good morning. How is everybody? Wonderful. I wish I could speak to you in your native language, but we have to use the headsets. But you will find that I am from New York. Many times I talk with my hands. But we have a very serious topic to talk about today, and that is right to repair. And the first thing that I want to do is congratulate the Alliance for taking the initiative to preserve your industry in Brazil for generations to come. Congratulations, and thank you. The Auto Care Association is based in the United States, just outside of Washington, D.C., and we have the pleasure of representing the entire supply chain from manufacturers, tier 1 manufacturers, aftermarket manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and the shop on the corner of Elm and Main. And our job is to preserve that legacy. We protect and advance the business interests of our industry. And not just in the United States, but around the globe. And our industry is facing technological threats. Our industry is facing political threats. We have tariffs, we have technology. There's never a loss for what we do as an association to protect the interests of our wonderful industry. Let's talk about our industry for a minute. And I show this slide every single time that I present. And if there's one message that I would like to convey to all of you, is to be proud of the industry that you are a part of. Whether you're in Brazil, Mexico, the United States, wherever you may be, we provide a critical service to consumers. In the United States, we are a $500 billion industry. We employ 5 million men and women. We service 296 million vehicles every single day. And all of you should be proud of the role that you play in our industry. And when you think about our industry on a global basis, we are responsible for 1.5 billion vehicles around the world. Our industry in US dollars around the world is $2.3 trillion that our industry provides every single year. Around the globe, consumers drive 12 trillion miles. I don't know how many times that is back and forth to the moon, but it's a lot. Be proud of who you are and what you represent and the business that you bring to your local economy. And I hope that all of you, when you leave today, feel proud of what you do. Rodrigo mentioned right to repair. People have heard of right to repair. But it's very important for all of us to understand why. Why is right to repair so important? How does right to repair affect our industry? So I'm going to tell you a little story. We surveyed almost 1,000 shop owners in the United States. And 51% of those shop owners reported that they had to send back up to 5 vehicles per month back to the dealership because they couldn't access the data. When you are a shop owner and you have a vehicle on the lift, there is no competition unless you can't access the data. And what is happening, those 5 vehicles a month that our shop owners are sending back to the dealer, they typically spend 4 hours trying to diagnose that vehicle before they give up and they send it back to the dealer. So if you're a shop owner, what do you do with those 4 hours of shop time? Do you bill your customer for 4 hours of diagnostics? Maybe. But if you do, I pretty much guarantee you won't see that customer again. So what do? If you're a shop owner, you now have to eat 4 hours of labor. That's 4 hours of bay time that is wasted. Up to 5 vehicles a month. That's 20 hours of lost diagnostic time. And when you multiply that by your shop rate, it gets into the tens of thousands of dollars that we are conceding back to the dealership simply because we are not allowed to access that data. In the United States alone, I mentioned that we're over a $500 billion industry. We are losing $3 billion a year because of the lack of availability of data. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why we need right to repair. We need it in the United States, we need it in Brazil, we need it across the globe. I hope now that you understand the importance of right to repair. And it's only going to get worse because as more and more vehicles are technologically advanced and have telematics, it's going to get continually worse. And that's why this is perfect timing for the Alliance to take up the fight here in Brazil for right to repair. Does everybody understand the why? So before we talk about our federal efforts, I'm going to talk to you about the how. So in the United States, and I'm going to tell you a little story about how aggressive the automakers have become to prevent passage of right to repair. In 2020, we started our right to repair initiative in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And our strategy is to continually poke holes at the automakers, continually hit them from different fronts, pass state legislation in Massachusetts, create a federal bill. So we are continually keeping the pressure on the automakers. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we started our campaign, and the voters of Massachusetts would vote on this initiative. During the campaign, so that means that in November of 2020, all the residents of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts went to the voting box and decided yes or no for right to repair. During the election season, the automakers spent $30 million. I'll repeat that, $30 million US to try to convince the residents of Massachusetts that the people in our industry were going to steal their data, They were going to break into your house. They were going to steal your car. It was a horrifying indictment of our industry. But guess what? The voters of Massachusetts saw through that. And they voted to approve right to repair, despite the fact that the automakers had a filthy smear campaign against our industry. We won in Massachusetts by 82%. It was the largest margin of victory of any ballot initiative in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We won. Not really. Because what happened 3 weeks after the voters decided to approve right to repair, the automakers and their lawyers sued the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they said that the law in Massachusetts was preempted by a federal law, which they made up. And it also violated cybersecurity concerns. So now we had to go to trial. And we went to trial in June of 2021. And good old American justice, in 2025, the judge finally agreed in our favor. But guess what? Can anybody predict what the automakers may have done? They appealed. So this is a lesson not just about Massachusetts, but it's a lesson for you that the automakers, their number one profitability and revenue source is going to be the sale of data. Don't let yourselves get caught into that trap. That is the number one source of revenue for the automakers in the next 10 years. That's why they are so aggressive about preventing us from doing our job. And do we want a guarantee for our industry? No, we don't. All we want to do is compete and let the customer decide. Because we compete because you're good, you're convenient, you're price effective, and you know your stuff, rather than forcing the consumer to the dealer. Okay, so that's where we are in Massachusetts. In Maine, which is a very small state way up in the north of the United States, they're more well known for maple syrup than automobiles. And the reason, why do you think that we picked Massachusetts and Maine? There's no automakers, there's no OE production in Massachusetts or Maine. And they're consumer friendly. So, in 2022, we won in Maine. The voters in Maine went to the ballot box and they voted for us. 86% approval. Law in Maine, right? Not so fast. So what did the automakers do? They are now trying to back channel the law and work with the legislator to change the law, to remove heavy-duty vehicles from the law, to weaken the enforcement of the law. And that's critical. Enforcement of the law is critical. So, we have 2 states that won, and now we need to find a national solution, just like you in Brazil. We need to find a national solution. So, the Repair Act H.R. 1566 is our right to repair bill in the United States House of Representatives. We have 4 elected co-sponsors who are very adamant to get this done. So where we are in the United States, we have a bill in the House of Representatives. We have a bill for the first time. We have a bill for the first time in the United States Senate that are coincided, and when we pass one law in the House, we'll revise it, get it passed in the Senate. So we are further along than we ever have been. And it's wonderful progress. Our struggle, our fight is not just with the United States and Brazil. There are other countries, such as Canada, Australia, Brazil, of course. New Zealand is starting their fight. The European Union is starting their battle. So we have formed something called associations in motion. And just like the alliance here in Brazil, there are strengths in numbers. And we have to speak with one voice as an industry. So what we have done, we have created associations in motion so that regardless of where you are in the political process, there is a region that can help you, that can support you in your guide. But make no mistake about it, this is your struggle, and this is your battle to win. And we are here to support that. And the only reason that we have been able to get as far as we have is because of people like you. The Auto Care Association does not have the lawyers that the automakers do. As a matter of fact, lobbyists, we have 5 lobbyists at the Auto Care Association. Do you know how many lobbyists General Motors has? 250. Do you know how many lawyers? When we started our battle in Washington, D.C. for a federal law, General Motors contracted with 40 attorney firms to prevent us from contracting with those firms. They are brutal, they are tough, but what makes the difference is you. The only way that we got as far as we did, and as far as we continue to go, is because of industry engagement. And it's critical that you show up. When the Alliance asked you to represent Right to Repair, please come. Please write a letter to your local representative. Please become engaged. Because when you do, you are preserving our industry for generations to come. So I was going to talk about a few more trends, but I've got a few notes that I want to talk about. These are like some helpful hints. So going forward, number 1, create a strong coalition of industry colleagues just like the Alliance has done. The OEMs or the car makers will try and split you apart. They will try and get you to sign. They will try and work on the weakest member. And a sheep may wander off from the flock. But we've got to keep that flock together. We've got to keep our coalition together. We have to stay firm. There's going to be disagreements amongst all of you about what language should be included. I want to include this. I don't want to include this. It's critical that you work it out amongst yourselves and you don't let the automakers take a lamb aside and slaughter them. Be prepared for anything from the automakers. They will stop at nothing to prevent this from happening. So prepare yourselves for a struggle. But again, what we have that they don't have is you. So prepare yourselves for that. They took us by surprise on many different occasions. They signed an agreement with an association that has about 100 shop owners. And they said, oh, we've reached an agreement on right to repair, which didn't include any enforcement. It allowed the automakers to do whatever they wanted. So don't be fooled by that. Get a good lawyer to write the language. Critical. So find a good lawyer and keep them close. We are here to offer our support. I am here to offer my support. I am a citizen of the industry. I am not an American citizen today. I am a citizen of this great industry. I am here to offer advice, help, but I want to reiterate that this is your fight. This is your fight. You need to be engaged. Bring your customers in. Talk to them. Explain to them why right to repair is so important. So, that's the story. And it's really been quite fun, quite honestly. It brings your industry together. People work together every single day. The people that you may consider your competitor and your enemy, you are now together working on this issue. So let's continue to push forward. I did have some other, is there any questions or anything that I could field? Maybe afterward. Let's do that. Why don't you try and catch me afterward? We'll have an interpreter, but I'd be happy to talk. So some quick trends on our side. So technology, we have always adjusted as an industry, whether it's from the crank start to the electric battery, or whether it's fuel injection, replacing the carburetor. Our industry's always adapted to technology. E-commerce, new trend that we're following. It's now a certified channel within our industry. We're state-of-the-art updates. How does that affect our industry? How does that take the shop owner out of the equation? Right? Another way for the automakers to take control. And then AI in the industry, a fascinating development. So I'm not how much time do I have? Oh, I still have 5 minutes left. Oh, great. Okay, EVs. We've all heard about EVs. U.S., only about 8% of the vehicle population of the new car sales are EVs. We've all seen a decline in the adoption of EVs. I know that's not a big issue here. It might be coming. In the EU, however, 14% of the vehicles, the new car sales, are EV. And in China, it's 23%. But in the United States, we're seeing a big decline because of the incentives are no longer being offered by the automakers or the government in particular. So an interesting development. China makes more cars than the big three, Ford, GM, Stellantis combined. China is an automaker, and they are looking for anywhere to sell their vehicles. So that's an important trend for us to realize. I'm going to go by this. Okay, so here's the important slide. Right here in 2040, that's 15 years from now, I'll be retired to Rio by then, I hope. Still, more than 50% of the vehicle population will be internal combustion engine in the United States. So we have a long tail. We have training to get us there. So it's coming, but it's not coming like a freight train. Geopolitical factors, I'll be honest with you, the biggest one is tariffs. And that is self-initiated from the United States. So as an association, what we are doing is looking for how do we provide tools to our members so they can figure out what is going on. How can you, for everybody, it's disruptive. So how do we take the disruption out of it so that we can plan our businesses better? I mentioned China as an automotive leader. That's something for us to all keep an eye out. Okay, I talked about tariffs. So I mentioned a tool that we're going to be developing at the Auto Care Association. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this on our website, and you will be able to enter your product, your code, and be able to determine what the tariff rate is on that. So, okay, I'm sourcing an auto part from China. It's half aluminum, half steel. What are the tariffs? So then they will be able to figure that out. So as an association, we provide tools for our members so that they can make good business decisions. Generational shifts are really important. And the new workforce. We have a community called Women in Auto Care. Women in Auto Care just had a conference in April. They had over 400 women representing our industry. A wonderful tribute to the women that are working in our industry, and they're growing and they're becoming more engaged. Thank goodness. Our younger generation, we have a community called the Young Auto Care Networking Group. We have to make sure that we train our next generation of leaders. So that's a responsibility on all of us. Workforce development. How do we make sure that we bring qualified technicians, young men and women, into our industry? How do we help them decide on the automotive industry rather than air conditioning or other technologies? The trades in the U.S. have to be elevated. And we have to provide the same financial assistance to those young men and women who are entering a trade as we do for those entering a university. It's critical for all of us to develop these trades. We need to speak one language as an industry too. And ACEs and PIs are a way to do so. To be able to look up a part consistently, whether you're in Brazil or whether you're in the United States, it's critical for us to speak one language. We also provide a tremendous amount of data for our members. During the pandemic, I made a commitment as the head of the Auto Care Association to provide as much data back to the industry as possible so that we can make good business decisions. So we created something called Trend Lens, or Auto Care VIP, in order to be able to do so. Data is critical for our industry. We need to get more data, and we need to get data that's actionable so that you can make good business decisions. Obrigado. Okay, on time?